Sometimes it happens in the quiet of a hospital room. Other times it's at home, surrounded by those we love. And sometimes it happens alone, without farewells, without warning. The body stops, the heart falls silent, and the final breath escapes without asking permission. But what most people don't know is that this moment, the one many believe to be the end, is actually the beginning of something far greater. Because even when everything seems over, the soul awakens and begins its crossing. It's not like switching off a light. It's more like untying a knot, a deep, ancient knot made of memories, emotions, regrets, choices, and love. And in that sacred instant, invisible to the world, the deepest mysteries of existence begin to unfold. What does the soul see, feel, and experience in the first moments after death? Is it possible that those we've lost are still closer than we realize? Have you ever felt their presence? A dream that felt too real. A scent, a whisper, a shiver that arrived without explanation. Or perhaps a message in a silence only the heart could hear. Welcome to Bible Stories and Mysteries. Today you'll embark on a spiritual journey that crosses time, space, and the veil between two worlds. And perhaps by the end of this video, you'll never see death or life the same way again. If this resonates with you, subscribe, turn on the bell, and share this story with someone who needs peace, hope, and answers. It begins with a stillness no one can explain, not the silence of a quiet room, but something deeper. A presence leaves, a mystery begins. The eyes, once filled with light, turn inward, as if staring into eternity. And in that sacred breath, the last one, the soul unknots itself from the body. Not with violence, not with haste, but like a thread pulled gently from fabric woven over a lifetime. The sacred departure is not death, it's release. At that moment, time bends. For those around, seconds may pass, but for the soul, the veil parts and everything shifts. The body is now weightless, not in mass, but in meaning. Like a shell returned to the shore, its purpose fulfilled. Yet the soul, luminous, alert, begins to awaken. It hovers, lingers, sees the room not with eyes but with essence, and recognizes it has stepped into eternity. Some report a sound, like a chord from heaven. Others sense a wind, a fragrance, a warmth not of this world. But always, there is a sense of being drawn upward, not by force, but by invitation. The soul knows the call. It is the voice of the one who gave it life. The same voice that whispered in the womb now calls it home, and the soul responds, not with words, but with surrender. Angels are near. Though invisible, their presence thickens the air. Not all can perceive them, but the soul can. They stand like silent guardians, waiting, not to take, but to escort, not to judge, but to accompany, because this is not the end. This is a birth into the spiritual dimension that was always just a breath away. Sometimes the soul resists, not out of fear, but out of love. It lingers near a child's bed, a lover's hand, a sibling's prayer. It remembers birthdays, laughter, mistakes, forgiveness, but even so, the pull continues. For what lies beyond is not shadow, but light. And in that light, everything is known, remembered, and made whole. The crossing begins, and heaven watches. Have you ever been near someone's final breath, felt something leave that no machine could measure? Perhaps what you felt was the soul, leaving without footsteps, slipping through silence and whispering back, "I am still here." The moment the body falls still, the soul opens its eyes, not eyes of flesh, but eyes of truth. And what it sees cannot be described in earthly words. Some speak of light, others of landscapes soaked in peace. But all agree on one thing: it feels like coming home, to a place you've never been, as if the soul remembers something ancient and steps into it without fear. The first seconds are flooded with awareness. The soul thinks, feels, remembers, loves, but all of it magnified, like the heart has become infinite. Some speak of a life review, not as judgment, but as unveiling. Every act, every word, every silence, seen now through the lens of eternity. And in that lens, there is only truth. But a truth that does not punish, it reveals. The soul sees what it became, and more deeply, it feels what it caused in others. The pain and the love it left behind. It is a complete awareness, tender and clear, as if God himself says, "See through my eyes." And the soul weeps and rejoices and remembers. There is a sound too, not a sound from earth, but a vibration, deep and sacred. A music that doesn't need to be sung to be heard. Some say they hear their names being called. Others, a silence so full, it speaks. But all feel this: they are not alone, they never were, and they never will be again. In this new realm, fear cannot enter. Even those who died in confusion or pain find peace. Because here, there is welcoming, like arms that embrace without touching, like a gaze that understands without asking. It is the Father waiting on the porch of forever. And to every soul that crosses the threshold, he says without speaking, "You are home." The soul still longs for the living. It glances back, searching for familiar voices and faces, but now it begins to understand. There is more. There is a path. There is a purpose, and every step forward is lighter. For the weight of flesh has been laid down, and the spirit has begun its journey toward what was always promised. Why 40 days? This number appears like a sacred whisper throughout Scripture. 40 days of rain to cleanse the earth. 40 years in the desert to prepare a nation. 40 days of fasting before the Christ revealed his mission. Nothing in God's time is random. So too, after death, there is a sacred window. 40 days in which the soul walks between two worlds. It is a time of transition, no longer bound to the flesh, yet not fully embraced by eternity. The soul watches, listens, lingers. It revisits memories, walks through old rooms, and draws close to the ones it loved, as if collecting the final threads of what once was. Some saints spoke of this time as a pilgrimage, where angels escort and heaven teaches. Even Christ, after his resurrection, remained for 40 days, not out of necessity, but love. He appeared on the road, in the upper room, by the sea. He ate, spoke, consoled, and only then ascended. This is not coincidence. It is revelation. Even after victory over death, there was still time for farewell and preparation. In the Eastern Christian traditions, these 40 days are honored with depth and reverence. Liturgies, prayers, and candlelight ceremonies are held, not as superstition, but as love. For they believe the soul, even then, needs guidance and light. And the prayers of the living rise like incense, building bridges between time and eternity. During these days, some souls are permitted to visit the living, sometimes in dreams, other times as a silent warmth in the room, or as a sudden memory that opens the heart without warning. They don't come to haunt, they come to bless, to say without a voice, "I still see you, I still love you." Because in God, love does not end, it transforms. At the end of the 40 days, a veil begins to close, and the soul moves toward its final destination. Some ascend swiftly, like breath into light. Others are led into purification, the fire that heals, not harms. But all continue, because the journey of the soul does not end at the grave. It begins to bloom in the unseen. Not every departure is distance. Sometimes those who leave remain, not in body but in presence. For 40 days or perhaps longer, the soul lingers in the places it once loved, not from attachment, but from love. It wants to see the children sleep one more time, hear its name whispered with longing, walk again through the memories that once made it human. The soul is not a ghost. It is light in transition. It watches tenderly, unable to interfere. It hears whispered prayers, hidden tears, remembered laughter, and it feels all of it, more deeply than ever before. It recognizes its faults and receives the gratitude of those who loved it. Every gesture of kindness becomes fragrance in eternity. Every act of forgiveness, a key that unlocks heavenly doors, and even without a body, it touches with presence. Sometimes we feel a soft chill without cause, a scent that shouldn't be there, a faint sound, or an object that falls without reason. It is the touch of spirit, gently saying, "I'm near." The soul that departs doesn't come to frighten, but to console. It knows the pain of those left behind, and so it chooses to stay close, for just a little while longer. Animals sense it, children see it. They gaze at empty corners and smile. They point to nothing and say, "Look, Grandma." It's not imagination, it's purity of perception, because the eyes of the spirit never close with age. They only grow quieter. And in that quiet, doors open, and sometimes a soul steps through. This nearness is also farewell. The soul knows it must go, but not without leaving peace. It's like someone at a train window, gazing one last time at the ones they love. It wants you to know, I left the body, but not the love. And so it hovers, between prayers, memories, and blessings. There's something few understand. Our words still reach them. Even after death, love crosses over. A letter, a prayer, a tear spoken with faith reaches the soul like light, and with that light, it rises, lighter, freer, knowing it has not been forgotten. Not all dreams are dreams. Some come like whispers through eternity. A voice you haven't heard in years suddenly speaks again. A face long buried smiles with warmth that wakes your heart. You sit beside them, you talk, you cry. And when you wake, the pillow is damp, but your soul feels lighter. Was it just the mind, or was it the spirit? In the night, when the body surrenders, the soul becomes porous. Heaven has always spoken through dreams. God warned Joseph, spoke to Daniel, visited Solomon, and comforted Jacob with angels on a stairway. And even now he permits souls to pass through the fragile veil of sleep, to deliver what can't be said in waking hours. Love, forgiveness, goodbye. Sometimes they appear younger, full of light. Other times, exactly as you remember. They say, "I'm okay," or say nothing at all. Yet you understand everything. Some leave messages, others bring only presence, but always there is peace, and a sense that this moment wasn't imagined. Have you ever woken up feeling as though something holy just occurred? You check your phone, the clock, the silence around you, but what lingers is not a dream. It's an encounter. The soul remembers what the mind cannot hold. And in those moments, time and eternity kissed, not to confuse you, but to comfort you, to remind you they are not lost. Dreams like these often come in waves, anniversaries, birthdays, moments of deep grief, and they are not random. They are allowed, sometimes as grace for the living, and sometimes as healing for the one who passed. Because the bond of love is not cut by death, it is refined by it. Don't dismiss the dream, don't explain it away. Sometimes it is more real than your waking life, because it came from the spirit, and it carried a piece of eternity. Hold it in your heart like a secret letter from heaven, a letter sealed with love and sent through sleep. Grief is not a wound, it's a passage. It opens slowly, quietly, and sometimes never fully closes. Because when love is deep, absence carves a space too wide for words. But what few realize is this: grief does not only dwell in the living, it echoes even in the soul that has crossed. When a person dies with unresolved words, a goodbye unsaid, a pain unhealed, that weight can press on both sides of the veil. The soul may linger, watching with sorrow, feeling the heaviness still held by those it left. It desires peace for itself, but also for the ones who still walk the earth. It wants to say, "Let go, so I can rise." Sometimes that's why they appear, in dreams, in signs, not to disturb, but to invite healing. The hug you never gave, the apology never spoken, the silence that became distance. They don't come to reopen the wound, but to close it in grace, to lift the burden from both of you. Unresolved grief becomes a tether, not out of punishment, but love, because love waits, and sometimes the soul that departed is still waiting to be released by a prayer, a word of forgiveness, a final blessing spoken with trembling lips. The Church has long taught the power of intercession. Prayers for the dead are not superstition, they are mercy, and they reach across the divide, like lanterns lit in the night. When you speak their name with love, you invite peace to descend, not just upon you, but upon them. Some griefs are sharp, others are soft and slow, like fog, but each one holds a key to healing, to connection, to spiritual freedom. Don't rush it, don't bury it, but also don't carry it forever, because when you release your sorrow with love, heaven receives it as prayer. Comment below if you've ever dreamed of someone you loved, someone whose presence felt more real than anything else. Your story might unlock healing for someone else walking through the same sacred pain. There are moments when the ordinary becomes extraordinary. A butterfly that lingers far too long, a song that plays the exact words you needed to hear, a scent from nowhere, a photo that falls without wind. These are not accidents, they are echoes, traces of those we love, brushing against the veil, to remind us, love did not end. Heaven speaks in whispers. It doesn't shout, it nudges. A child says they saw grandma again. A pet stares at the empty hallway and wags its tail. You dream of a hand holding yours and wake with peace. And in the quietest of moments, you hear your name, feel their warmth, and somehow, no. These signs are not meant to bind us to the past. They are permission to believe, permission to smile again, permission to say they're okay, because the souls who love deeply in life still love from beyond. And sometimes they are allowed to send comfort in ways only the Spirit understands. It could be a feather in your path, a sudden breeze in a closed room, a phrase someone says that pierces straight to your grief. God allows these moments not to confuse, but to console. They are breadcrumbs of eternity scattered across our days. If we follow them with the heart, they always lead back to love. Some people experience these signs right away. For others, they come later, when the heart is quieter, softer, ready to feel again. And there are some who may never notice them, not because they're not given, but because the world taught them to ignore. But heaven waits for no ceremony. It speaks when the soul listens. These signs are not proof to be debated. They are gifts to be received. And though we may doubt them in the mind, the heart often knows the truth. A truth that whispers, they are near, they are well, and they want you to live. So the next time something moves you, deeply, unexpectedly, pause. It might not be chance, it might be grace, a soul reaching out with love, not to pull you back, but to push you gently forward. No soul dies without meeting its truth. Not a court of men, but a mirror of eternity. The moment the body falls silent, the spirit stands before the one who formed it, and what it sees is not just God. It sees itself, fully, clearly, without disguise. And in that moment, judgment begins. But this is not the judgment we often imagine. It is not a gavel or a list of sins, it is a revelation of every choice, every intention, every moment we chose love or chose self. The soul is shown its impact on others, on the world, on heaven, and no lie can survive that light. Some souls are welcomed immediately, like the beggar Lazarus, carried by angels to peace. They spent their lives in humility, in hidden faith, and now enter rest. Others, like the rich man, wake in torment, not because God abandoned them, but because their own choices built a prison the soul can no longer ignore. Still, mercy is woven into every corner of this encounter, because the judge is also the shepherd. He shows not only what we failed, but where we were held by grace. He shows the tears we cried in secret, the kindness we gave in silence, and the moments when love overcame fear. And in those moments, the soul weeps. Some are invited home instantly. Others are led into purification, not as punishment, but as healing. A fire not of wrath, but of love, burning away what cannot enter glory. This is the mystery of mercy, that even after death God still seeks to save. And yet, there are souls who resist, who cling to pride, resentment, regret. They fear the light because they fear being seen. But even for them, grace waits. Even for them, God's hand remains open, because no one is lost until they refuse to be found. Judgment is not about fear, it's about truth. And truth in God's hands is always bathed in mercy. So when your time comes, you will not meet a stranger. You will meet the one who always loved you, even in your darkest hour. Not all souls ascend with ease. Some linger, not out of punishment, but because of weight. The weight of guilt, the pull of unfinished love, a secret never confessed, a goodbye never spoken, a child left behind, still crying out in the night. These things anchor the soul, and heaven in mercy allows time. There are souls that remain close, because something was left undone, a mission not completed, a prayer never answered, a wound still bleeding in someone they loved. They hover, not to haunt, but to help, to wait, to hope that someone will open the door they can no longer knock on. Sometimes they come to us in dreams or as sudden memories that ache, not to disturb, but to ask, will you release me? Will you forgive me? Or will you finally let me go with peace? Their lingering is not rebellion, it is longing. In the ancient tradition of the Church, prayers for these souls are a holy act of mercy. Masses, candlelight, words spoken aloud into the silence. They rise like incense, clearing paths the soul could not clear alone. Because some journeys to heaven need the help of the living. When we carry bitterness toward the dead, we bind both them and ourselves. But when we forgive them, even in death, something divine happens. Chains fall, light breaks through, and the soul can rise, finally unburdened. It is not our job to judge who lingers. It is our calling to love, to intercede, to stand in the gap between time and eternity, offering prayer where pain once lived. Because some souls do not need answers. They need someone to believe they're still redeemable and to speak their name one last time in love. So if someone comes to mind, not randomly, but suddenly, deeply, again and again, don't ignore it. They might be waiting for your prayer. They might be knocking from the other side of the veil. And your voice might be the light they've been longing for. Letting go doesn't mean forgetting. It means trusting. Trusting that love does not end with the grave, that the one who gave life now carries it beyond time. There comes a moment, holy and quiet, when the soul is ready to rise, but waits for your release. Some souls cannot go fully until the ones they love say, "It's okay. You can rest now. I'll love you from here." These words spoken in faith are not the end of connection. They are the beginning of peace. The Church, since the earliest days, has honored this mystery with prayer. The Mass offered for the dead, the lighting of candles, the recitation of the Rosary, and the whispered name in moments of silence. These are not rituals. They are lifelines between worlds. When you pray for a departed soul, you are not talking to the past. You are participating in mercy. You are surrounding them with light in places you cannot see, and every time you bless their memory, you build a bridge from your heart to heaven. There is a grace in surrender, to say goodbye, not with despair, but with faith. Faith that the veil is thin, faith that God is just and merciful, faith that you will meet again, not as you were, but as you were always meant to be. So light the candle, say the name, write the letter, even if they'll never read it. Tell God your sorrow, and then tell Him your trust. Because when you let go with faith, you open your hands and find that heaven has already been reaching for you all along. If this journey touched your soul, write in the comments, "I trust in the eternal reunion." And if you want to walk with us through more stories of spirit, mystery, and faith, subscribe, tap the bell, and share this video with someone who needs hope on both sides of the veil.